that I'm a big believer that we're moving into a totally decentralized world. And with that comes a bunch of changes in our society. And I think one of the main changes that we're going to see, and we're already seeing it in a very big way, is that people are just going to start leaving their jobs. They're going to start leaving their 9-to-5 jobs. I think that whole structure, corporate structure of jobs, 9-to-5, going to the office, working for somebody else, I think that's going to be completely out the window once we move into this new decentralized world. And so if you are somebody who is in that position right now, if you're working a 9-to-5 job that you don't necessarily love, even if you do, you're working for somebody else. You're spending your time, your energy, making somebody else rich. And the only reason that happened in the old system is because we never had the ability, we never had the technology and the functionality to do otherwise, but we do now. And so I think that if you are somebody in that position, I think you should start, kind of spreading your tentacles out, I guess you'd say, in terms of finding things that you can do to get ahead of this. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be sharing 7 things here that I learned from Gary Vee. And hopefully, if anybody out there, and if you already have a business, I think this is going to be very applicable to you. But even if you don't have a business right now, switch to a mindset of this: I am going to have a business in less than 5 years from now. So I need to start preparing for this today. And I'm going to maybe be earning some dollars. I'm going to be earning as much Bitcoin as I can, but I'm going to be working for myself. I'm going to be contracting myself. I'm going to be utilizing whatever skills I've gained in my life, and I'm going to be offering that value and the service to other people in exchange for money or Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is money, as we know, but fiat or Bitcoin. Sachi says, took advantage of those low fees on Monday, consolidated a few smaller ledger wallets, and sent them to my cold card. Lock that shit down. Atta boy. That's things I love to see right there from Sachi. That's a perfect thing to do. Took advantage of low fees, consolidated the ledgers, moved them into a cold card, and I'm sure Sachi has had a couple good nights of rest in the last couple of days from that. So here we go. Here is 7 things I learned from Gary Vee. Some of them I'm going to go through a little bit faster because they're fairly obvious. But I think that if you can, I don't know if Daniel's here today or not. Yeah, he is. Daniel likes these lists. So here's 7 things. You can write these down and just always keep these at the top of your mind. And you can really apply these to, even if you're an employee for somebody else, if you're responsible for some sort of department or marketing or finding new customers, these I think will help you out a little bit. So kind of the general theme here, and this is something that we've been talking about on Living in the Future, is stop competing and start creating. So the thing that Earl talks about, I love mentioning Earl on here, but he's been a pretty big influence over there. But the one thing that Earl talks about is that the 95% of the population are doing the exact same thing. 95% of the population are all competing against each other. And so if you want to be in the 5%, if you want to take a different road, you have to stop competing, stop doing what everybody else is doing, and start creating for yourself. So that's kind of the general theme here, and that's one of them. And that's something that Gary Vee said. One of his main quotes is to forget competition, focus entirely on your consumer. So that's the first one, which is the theme of today's and the title of today's show, just worded a little bit differently. So Gary Vee said, forget your competition, focus on your end consumer. Apply all of your focus to what your customer wants and create the product, the service, and the benefit to your client, your consumer. So that's number 1. That's very, very important. Number 2 is a quick one I'm going to say here, is never stop. Regardless of where you are, regardless of what you've been doing, never stop pushing forward here. Because I feel like from my experience, and it's something that I've seen in my life a couple different times, but a lot of people fail because they stop. They give up a little bit early. And if they just would have pushed through another month, another couple episodes, another couple years even with their business, They were so close to finding success, but they gave up right before that magical moment. So never stop. If you're doing something that you really believe in, and if you know that you're adding value to other people's lives, don't stop doing it. It's just a matter of time. Everything good in life takes time. So never stop. If you've been working on something and it doesn't seem like you're finding any traction there, just keep going with it, because you're probably so close to breaking through that barrier. And on the other side of that is success. So that's number 2, never stop. Number 3 here is age is completely irrelevant. And that's one thing that Gary Vee talks about all the time. And I should give a quick little prelude here to the Gary Vee stuff. But Gary Vee, he was actually the reason I started our golf company, knggolf. I was watching him all the time, every day during the pandemic. And he inspired me in a lot of ways just to take some action. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to pass along today in terms of some advice on how to do it, but also just to do it. So Gary Vee, like I said, inspired knggolf. He's got me to this point. He's given me a lot of good advice. I don't love what he's been doing in terms of the NFT stuff. That was kind of what pushed me away from him. But all of these principles, all of these guidelines, I think are still very applicable, even though he's gone down the Ethereum rabbit hole a little bit too far. These are still very applicable. So number 3 is your age, completely irrelevant. It's just a human construct. We get older because we tell ourselves that we're supposed to be getting older. And so it doesn't really matter what age you are. I think that, even if you are somebody who's in your 60s, 70s, 80s, I think that you're actually 1,000 times more valuable than somebody who's 20 years old right now. And I'm sure 20-year-olds won't love hearing that, but it's the truth. You have so much more experience. You've been through so much more trials, tribulations to get to this point. And that counts for something. That counts for a lot. And I think that a lot of people really undervalue and underappreciate that in terms of the age. So regardless of what age you are, I don't think it's ever too late to start doing something for yourself. And you might be kind of forced into it here over these next couple of years, but I want you to really embrace that and look at it through a different lens in terms of your experience and your life experience. I think that goes so much further than a university degree. So age is completely irrelevant, whether you're 40, 50, 60, 70. You can always start something because the last thing you want to do, and kind of the reason I started knggolf, to be honest with you, is that I didn't want to wake up when I was 95 years old in a bed and wonder what could have been, right? What if I would have just taken some risk? What if I would have left my job and started my own business? What could have happened? I didn't want that regret when I was at the end of my life. And so, if this whole thing fails in 5 years from now, I'll just do something else. I'll go get a job. But I don't want to be at the end of my life and look back and think, what could have been? What if? I don't want any sort of regret like that. So regardless of what age you're at right now, I think that you can take that step to doing what you want to do for yourself. The next one here is consistency. And this one's going to be a pretty quick one too. Consistency, I think, is the key to anything in life. If you're trying to become stronger, if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to learn a new skill, if you're trying to build an audience, if you're trying to build a brand, the key there is consistency. And I'm sure people have heard that 1,000 times, but it's the truth. And I can personally attest to that. The whole turning point of this 88 Sats channel, and the reason I'm here today, is because I showed up every single morning for the last 6 months. Before that, I would, put in a lot of time, a lot of effort into the videos and stuff, but it wasn't getting any sort of traction because it wasn't consistent. So you show up every single day. And if you're doing something like this, whether it's a YouTube channel or building an audience on a podcast or a blog, whatever it is, the key to everything is consistency. Whether it's weekly, monthly, daily, just be consistent with it, regardless of what that consistency is or that time frame. So that's number 4. Consistency is the key to everything. The next one here is his $1.80 interactions. And I forget the exact math on that, but the point of it was that he was saying that you should this is what it was. You should leave your 2 cents on 9 different posts across 10 different hashtags or something like that. Anyways, it added up to $1.80. And basically what he was saying there is that in order to build an audience, in order to build a community, you have to be interacting. And I think especially on nostr, interaction is the key. And it's so much different than what we're used to in terms of Twitter, TikTok, all these different algorithms and kind of doing things for us. And it's very surface level interactions there, if at all. And so his big thing there is that you should be interacting with your audience. You should be interacting with other people. That's how you build your community. That's how you build your network, is actually interacting, not just posting things like you're talking to the wind, but actually interacting with people. So use that strategy on nostr. Follow as many people as you can. Interact with people every single day on their posts. If they comment on yours, comment back to them, but interact. And I think that that's another big part of I say success. It is a lot of success for me on this channel, but because I respond to comments, I look at the comments, I answer them on the shows. We do live Q&As. The whole thing here, what makes this whole show so unique is the interaction. And so his $1.80 advice there is just to interact with people. Don't talk to the wind. It won't get you anywhere. So that's the number 5 there, is the $1 interaction, $1.80 interaction. Good morning over to zap.stream. Phoenix Falconers over there. Good morning. And we got a couple faces in the chat here. Noah's on YouTube today. Good morning, Noah. Wisconsin. Rick, yikes, I lost track of time, but had to come hurry up and smash the like. Appreciate you, Rick. Thank you. Let's see if you're alone there or not. No, we got 14 already. There we go. And this is a great point from Rick. Interaction can make or break a growing channel. Could not agree more. Focus on that. Don't focus so much on just posting. That's the next one here, actually. But focus on interacting and actually listening to people, interacting with them. And if you're actually listening to what they're saying and asking you, you can kind of tailor your products, your service, or your content towards what they're looking for. But if you never see that, if you never look at it, you're never going to know what your audience actually wants. So there you go. Good morning, King. The best name on the channel, King D. Matt over in zap.stream just zapped 121 sats. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. Good morning. So that is the number 5, interact with people. Number 6 here, and this one came up actually on yesterday's Living in the Future show. This is kind of a small preview of the kind of stuff we talk about over in Living in the Future. It's mostly focused on this kind of stuff, on ideas, on building businesses, on generating different ways to earn Bitcoin. And so one of the things that came up as we were talking yesterday, and I think it was Daniel who pointed this out, but I was talking and he said, jab, 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 right hook. And that's a famous Gary Vee. I think he actually had a book named after that. But his whole idea there is you just like throw a bunch, essentially you're just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping one lands, hoping the right hook lands. So you got 10 posts. And I mean, if you look at Gary Vee's account, the consistency there and this strategy, I think is the perfect example of that. So, I mean, me personally, this has kind of been our whole strategy at King Golf, is just try as many different things as possible. And eventually one or two of those things will stick. So don't try to plan out your posts perfectly. Don't try to have the perfect plan in place for everything that you implement in your business. Just try as many things as you possibly can and throw as much shit at the wall as you possibly can. And eventually some things will stick. So let's say you throw 100 different things out there, 100 posts, 100 ideas, and none of them except for 1 or 2 stick. But those 1 or 2 that do, that's what you run with. That's what you do for the next 1.5 or 2 years. So jab, 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 throw as much shit at the wall at the wall as possible, and one of them, the right hook, will eventually land. Something will eventually stick there, but you're not going to do it just by sitting back, thinking about it, planning, worrying about it. Just do as much as you possibly can. Post as much as you possibly can. And somewhere in there, people will find value from it. And that's what you focus on. So that's number 6, jab, 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 right hook. Number 7 is finding underpriced attention. And I think that Nostr is the perfect example of this right now. Nostr. So his argument there, and this is kind of what he's been talking about for the last couple of years on his channels and his platforms, is that he finds these things, like TikTok was one of them. TikTok, I think another one was, what was it called? Pixter or something? I don't know. One of the early days. He was very focused. So he says that where there's underpriced attention essentially means that there's a lot of people there, but there's not a whole lot of people creating content there yet. So that's the things that you should be looking for. And Nostr to me embodies that right now. So if you think about a different platform like TikTok, so yes, there's a lot of people consuming it, but there's also a ton of people creating on there. Everybody now has a TikTok account. Everybody's posting things about their diet, about their workout, about their dog, about their golf game. Everybody's creating things on TikTok. So when you look at the spread there, you see the consumers and the creators there. And if they're a similar amount, your reach isn't going to be very far. But if there's a big audience there, your consumer, if that's a big number and there's only so many creators, people actually putting out content from people, that's the place you want to be. So you should be looking for platforms and apps and things like Nostr where it's very underpriced attention right now. So an example of that, honestly, is, I mean, I do this on my show, or I've started to do this on my show, and I will continue to do this on the show. But a perfect example of this is on Nostr and in the Bitcoin world. If you wanted to get your message out there in front of Bitcoiners, you could send in a zap to Citadel Dispatch, no, Matt Odell, Rabbit Hole Recap. You could send 50,000 sats worth of Bitcoin to Odell and Marty, and they'll read your message on their show. So that's the definition of underpriced attention, because their show reaches so far across the Bitcoin landscape. Pretty much every Bitcoiner listens to Rabbit Hole Recap. So for 50,000 sats, which is like $50, you can get your message, your event, your business out there in front of everybody you want to for $50. That's the definition of underpriced attention. And I mean, at a smaller scale, this show is a perfect example of that too. If you send in a boost on Fountain, if you leave a comment on YouTube, but especially on Fountain or on Zap.stream. Zap.stream might even be the more beneficial and in time way of doing it. And over on Zap.stream, Jan just zapped 69 sats. And with that, you can leave a comment. So for 69 sats, Jan just zapped over on Zap.stream. You can leave a message there. And that's like what, 6 cents? Less than 6 cents. You can get your message out there in front of a bunch of Bitcoiners. Like, this is the kind of stuff that you should be focused on right now, is the underpriced attention in Bitcoin and on Nostr. So Jan says, as usual, I didn't make the live show. We'll watch later. Really enjoyed yesterday's show, Jor. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What was yesterday's show? Oh, decentralize yourself. Pretty important right now. So that is the list, what I've learned from Gary Vee. I'll run through them quickly once again. Forget your competition. Focus entirely on your end consumer. In other words, stop competing like the 95% and start creating, be in the 5%. Number 2 is never stop. You're closer than you think to whatever you want to do. Just do not stop doing it. Number 3 is age is just a social. It's just a number. It's a social construct. Completely irrelevant. You can do whatever you want at whatever age you are. Number 4 is consistency is key to anything, especially building a brand and a company. Number 5 is focus on the interaction. Interact as much as possible on YouTube, on Nostr, on whatever platform you're growing on. Interact with the people out there. Number 6, jab, 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 right hook. Throw shit at the wall and wait for a few things to stick and focus on the ones that do stick. And number 7 is underpriced. Find underpriced attention. Nostr is the place right now. So find a place where there's more consumers than creators and be a creator in that space.